Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my corner of the internet. My name is Jason, and today I want to play some Distant Worlds Universe. Distant Worlds Universe is a real-time 4X strategy game, and if you're not familiar with what a 4X strategy game is, the 4 X's stand for Explore, Expand, Exploit, and Exterminate, which are all E words, so it makes me wonder why it's not a 4E game, but we'll say, semantics aside, this is basically what I feel like playing. This is one of my favorite, actually, I would actually say that this is my favorite 4X strategy game. Other games in the genre are like Civilization, Master of Orion, that kind of thing. And this is a really big one, and it takes place across basically an entire galaxy, despite the name being universe. But that universe basically just is, we'll say, an added-on name for this version, which is available on Steam, and basically noting that it is Distant Worlds, and I guess it has all of the expansions included, because this game came out a little while back. I forgot to take a look at the exact date for that, but yeah, I decided I would go ahead and play this. This was actually a little bit prompted by the fact that I love the game and I wanted to play it, and about 4 months back I was speaking to a user, and I can't remember, it was the Knight of Boquicius, I believe. I may have mispronounced your name, I'm sorry, and and asked, why don't you play any strategy games? And I was just like, that's a very good question, I love strategy games. So we're gonna go ahead and take a look at this game. It's a very in-depth game, it's very detailed, and it's there's gonna be a lot of thinking, so I might do, some editing if there's some times where I'm just sort of sitting there scratching my head. So what we're gonna do, and I'll talk about options and everything once we maybe start to get into the game. For this first part, I'm gonna dub this part 0. We're gonna basically do game setup. So there's not gonna be really any gameplay in this part here, and if you don't like that, go ahead and skip to the next part. I'm gonna try to launch, part 0 and part 1 at the same time. That way those who aren't interested in setup can just jump into the game, and those who want to see how everything is set up can view that. So we're gonna go to Start New Game. And what I like about this game, well, I like a lot of things. If you want to just jump into the game, you want to learn it, you can play an introductory game, which basically just gives you some default settings and lets you dive on in. There also is a timeline, because this game here is also, it also has a storyline that you can go ahead and play, which is a nice, a little addition to a 4X game. It's not just strategy, there's a lot of very space opera-ish type things to it. Some of the plot lines kind of remind me of almost like a Mass Effect-esque kind of thing, although I know that story, Mass Effect wasn't, original. That was the most recent example I could think of. What we're going to be playing, though, is a custom game as a standard empire. Now, before I click on this, I do want to bring attention to one other thing. You can play a custom game as a pirate faction. We'll talk a little bit more about pirates when we get into the game, but if you don't feel like playing just a standard empire, let's say you want to start maybe more of a mercenary group or a smuggling faction that operates amongst, the empires, that is something you can do. So there's many different ways you can play this game, and I love that it gives you that option. So we're going to go ahead and create a custom game as a standard empire, and that way we can set up things exactly, the way we want them, and, have some fun with that. So, first things first, we got to choose our type of galaxy. Normally I play with a spiral, but I find that when I do that, empires who start on the outer ridges of the galaxy tend to fall a little bit behind, because they just don't have the resources of an empire in the middle. So I'm wondering if we go to irregular, and it'll kind of sort of spread the stars out all over the place. I think that'll probably be a little bit more fun for everyone involved, and that's basically just means me and the AI. We're gonna set the star amount to 1,400 stars. That's right. There will be 1,400 stars in this galaxy, each one with its own solar system, planets, moons, and that stuff. Physical size, we're gonna make it huge. It's gonna be a really big galaxy. Now, expansion. We basically what this slider does is it how far along is your galaxy? And we're going to go to pre or warp. That means that every single empire is going to start off on their, home planet without warp technology. They're going to have one planet, and then we're going to spread out from there. If you wanted to start a game with, established galaxies already, you could go up to, expanding, mature, old, and then then it would come down to less expansion and more just, straight up warfare and, fighting over territories and stuff like that. But we're going to start at pre-warp, because I always like to start on pre-warp, and I find it's kind of fun to be part of your empire's expansion. Now, aggression. Normally, you know, I'm not. Sometimes I like normal restless, but since we're playing this on here, and I'm like, you know, I want some fighting. I want some conflict. We're gonna make the galaxy unstable, and this is gonna make, we'll say, diplomacy a little bit harder. It's good, you know, war is gonna be a lot more, we'll say, frequent. I don't want to go downright chaos because I still want to be able to make some alliances. So we're gonna go ahead and keep that on unstable difficulty. I don't like messing with the difficulty setting because what it basically does is it applies basically multipliers. So, you know, it changes the mechanics against you rather than just making, we'll say, the AI better. So to me, I would rather make the game harder using different, we'll say, parameters. Research costs. We're gonna put this at very expensive. Why? Because I want it to take a while to develop, we'll say, new technologies. I don't know, it's a me thing. I don't like it when we just keep getting technology. I find it's kind of fun to play around in each, we'll say, era a little bit, you know, with the technology you have in each place. So we're gonna put that at very expensive. Space creatures. There are giant, we'll say, lobster type things and worms and things like that. We're gonna leave that at normal. They will appear with, we'll say, a normal frequency. Pirates. Now, you might, pirates are, I don't even want to call them barbarians. If you're thinking, we'll say, like Civilization, pirates are a lot more important than, we'll say, what the barbarians are. I wouldn't turn them off ever. I think the pirates play a very important role. So I'm going to keep them at normal, and their pirate strength. The pirates can be a real pain. They can be an absolute pain in your rear. But I'm going to keep them at normal. Yeah, we're gonna keep them at normal. That way they're going to be a problem throughout the entire game. Well, up to a point, I suppose. All right, next up, we're gonna look at colonization and territory. Colony prevalence. If I recall correctly, this setting means, and I think it has an explanation up here, but basically it determines the number of, we'll say, colonizable planets in the universe. If you put it up to abundant, basically there's planets that are suited for life all over the place, and you can go ahead and colonize all kinds of planets. We're gonna leave it at normal. We'll say, limit the number of planets we can actually fight over. Independent alien life. This here is a cool setting. If you're familiar with, like I said, Civilization 5, this kind of is your, we'll say, independent city-states. But we're gonna leave those at normal. Those basically are, we'll say, their own, we'll say, own entities that are not part of any of the main, we'll say, empires that you're playing. Colony influence range. Basically, this determines where your borders are. So if you've got we'll say, a planet, and you will say you've got, you know, your culture and the equivalent of that, basically there, it will sort of define your borders. I like having borders all nice and touching, and I like to generate a lot of conflict. So we're gonna actually jam that right up to 200%. It's gonna make a really wide radius, or really wide range around our planets, which is going to mean that we're claiming a lot of territory, which means, you know, we're probably gonna step on more people's feet. Sounds like fun. Enforce colonization range limits. We're going to keep this at 2 sectors. And what this means is that you can't colonize a planet that is more than 2 sectors away from any of your own colonies of your own planets. And this will prevent people from, you know, basically flying a colony ship all the way across the galaxy and starting to colonize near you. And that this means that, you know, the expansion is going to be a little bit more, we'll say, concentrated around an area. But there are still circumstances when you could have a colony on the other side of the galaxy. All right, so we're gonna look at the race. We're gonna pick human. There's a lot of stats here. We'll probably go over these when we actually get into the game. I feel like without the context of playing the game, you probably aren't going to get, we'll see, what a lot of these bonuses are. But basically, here is, we'll say, the race selection screen. These are the different choices. I'm just going to show them to you so that you can get a quick idea of what kind of things we are going to be interacting with. I'm going to choose human, though, because I happen to like espionage, and they have better spies, and they have better scientists as well. So, you know, we're going to have maybe a bit of a tech edge. All right. Empire name at a glance. No, I tried doing an at a glance, but this game is just too big to do that, so I figured I'd just do a full-out playthrough. We're gonna call this one blue screen. Why not? And we're gonna change this to this thing. It kind of looks bluish. All right, galaxy starting location. We can start anywhere in the galaxy. I'm not going to change that. Our home system will have a normal amount of resources. That way it'll be okay for us to start, but, things could still be kind of tough. Size. We are going to go to starting. That way there, we'll start off, basically with, like I said, the one planet. We're going to start off at pre-warp technology, and we're going to leave corruption at normal. We'll talk a little bit more about corruption when we actually get into the game. Our government. I think I'm going to pick monarchy to start. We'll try that. And like I said, we'll talk about these, we'll say, game elements a little bit more once we get into the game. I find it's easier to understand different elements when they're explained, when you can see them right in front of you. If I start explaining, this is how government works, a lot of people are going to be confused if they're not familiar with the game. So we're going to go to other empires. I'm going to keep things random. You can manually specify, different empires, race, random, government, size, tech level, how close do you want them to be to you. I believe you can actually even tell them which sector they're going to start in. So if you wanted to be, you wanted to have some fun and just sort of put everyone all in the same sector or over in the same corner of the galaxy and you on the other, that's something you could do as well. But I'm going to go ahead and auto-generate starting empires, 19 of them, and I'm going to make sure the independent alien colonies, remember the independents we talked about earlier, can actually start their own new empires during the game. In this game here, the starting empires it's not a set number. Like, you can have, we'll say these alien colonies, they can form their own space empires, and then you'll have new empires join the game partway through. And, you might even have, we'll say, civil wars within certain empires that will cause them to split, and then you'll have two empires formed out of one. So it's, things are a little bit more, we'll say, dynamic than what I've seen in other 4X games. Alright, victory conditions. I'm going to put the victory conditions on. I'm probably going to play this like a sandbox, but I'm going to turn these on. That way there we'll have sort of an end point to aim for in the Let's Play. But even when the victory conditions are met, it doesn't mean that you can stop playing. So if the series is going well and the victory conditions are met and we lose, for example, or we win, whatever, and people still want me to continue playing, we can go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and leave those check marks on for these different victory conditions. We'll talk a little bit about that when we get into the actual game. I am going to disable one story element, the Return of the Shakturi story event, because it is hard. I haven't won it yet, but just for this playthrough, we're gonna leave it off. I might do I will say another playthrough down the road where I actually tackle that storyline. And we're gonna turn off tech trading. Normally I like the idea of being able to trade technologies with other people, with other empires, but in this game here, I'm not 100% sure, but it feels like it might be a little unbalanced. I've noticed that the AI tends to really abuse it more than, let's say, I would want to, and we'll say their tech advance is really quick because they're siphoning off all the other AI, and it's also a source of, we'll say, easy income. It could be exploited, so I'm going to leave it off. And allow giant Kaltors at game start. Those are just big, giant space creatures, so we're going to go ahead and leave that on. Alright, let's go ahead and start the game. Alright, so when we get into the game, we'll start part 1. So, like I said, I'll see you then.